Atlantis version Plato. Atlantis, Atalantis or Atlantica, Greek, Atlas Island, is a legendary island that was first mentioned by Plato in the book Timaeus and Critias. In the book of an ancient Greek philosopher named Plato, 427-347 B.C., the Critias and Timaeus of the civilization of Atlantis are written. In his account, Plato wrote that Atlantis lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, and had a navy that conquered Western Europe and Africa 9,000 years before the time of Solomon, or about 9500 BC. After failing to attack Greece, Atlantis sank into the ocean, in just one day and one night. In the book, it is written that in front of the mainstay Hygalisi Strait, there is a very large island. From there we can go to other islands, on the islands surrounded by the ocean, that is the kingdom of Atlantis. The great empire that transcends high civilization, is lost in one night. At that time, Atlantis was about to wage a major war with Athens. Unexpectedly, Atlantis suddenly experienced an earthquake and flood. Just one night, Atlantis sank to the bottom of the sea. Solon is the wisest among the 7 ancient Greek philosophers. Solon made a trip around Egypt. From the shrine to the tomb of the Egyptian ancestors, Solon got the story of Atlantis. Job is the male ancestor of Critias, while Job gets the story of Atlantis. Solon, 639-559 BC. In another part of Critias's book, Critias's cousin tells about Atlantis. Critias was a pupil of the philosopher Socrates. 3 times he emphasized the existence of Atlantis in dialogue. Plato's teacher Socrates told about Atlantis, emphasizing that it is real. The story comes from an oral story written in the book. There is a giant landmass above the Atlantic Ocean to the west of the Mediterranean Sea, which is very far away, with a high civilization. According to Plato, the time of the sinking of Atlantis, about 11,150 years ago. Plato had several times said, the state of the kingdom of Atlantis was told from generation to generation. Absolutely not his own invention. Plato even went to Egypt to ask the directions of the local priests and famous monks at that time. That civilization or empire produced countless gold and silver. The palace was surrounded by golden walls and fenced by silver walls. The walls of the palace are studded with gold, brilliant and magnificent. Having a port and ships with a good and orderly layout, there are also objects that can carry people to fly. Its power is unlimited, even as far as mainland Europe and Africa. As a result of the earthquake and flood disaster, the empire sank to the bottom of the sea as well as its civilization, and was not remembered by the civilization after it. According to Plato, Atlantis was a continent that was lost due to a volcanic eruption which simultaneously erupted. With the eruption of dozens of volcanoes simultaneously, most of which are located in the territory of Indonesia, part of the continent has sunk and is covered by water from the melting ice. Among them are the eruptions of Mount Semeru, Mahameru in East Java. Then the volcanic eruption in Sumatra, which formed Lake Toba, with the island of Samosir, which was the peak of the mountain that erupted at that time. The most violent eruption later on was Mount Krakatoa, which split parts of Sumatra and Java and others and formed the Sunda Strait. Plato's description inspired the works of Renaissance writers, such as Francis Bacon's New Atlantis. Atlantis has also influenced modern literature, from science fiction to comic books and films. Latin translation of Timaeus, made in the Middle Ages. Timaeus. Timaeus begins with an opening, followed by a record of the creation and structure of the universe and ancient civilizations. In the opening passage, Socrates reflects on the perfect community, which is described in Plato's Republic, and wonders if he and his guests can remember a story that exemplifies such a civilization. In the book Timaeus, Plato tells, in front of the mainstay Hygalisi Strait, there is a very large island. From there you can go to other islands. In front of the islands is the whole land surrounded by ocean sea, that is the kingdom of Atlantis. At that time, the new Atlantis was about to wage a big war with Athens, but unexpectedly, Atlantis suddenly experienced an earthquake and flood. Not until a day and a night, completely submerged on the seabed, a large country that surpassed high civilization, disappeared overnight. Critias. Poseidon, 1503-1572. Critias cited a supposedly historical tale that would provide a perfect example, and followed it with a description of Atlantis. In his account, ancient Athens represented the perfect community, and Atlantis was its enemy, representing the very antithetic perfect trait described in the Republic. Poseidon. In the discussion of this book, Atlantis is Indonesia, we will see the similarities in the use of the term by Plato with the Sundanese civilization, namely, Pasundan. There is a similarity in the mention of the term. Critias claims that his accounts of ancient Athens and Atlantis are based on a visit to Egypt by the Athenian poet Solon in the 6th century BC. In Egypt, Solon met the priest from Say, who translated the history of ancient Athens and Atlantis, recorded on papyrus material in Egyptian hieroglyphs, into Greek. According to Plutarch, Solon met Xenophus Heliopolis and Sontius Sate, the most studied of all the priests. According to Critias, the Hellenic god divided the territory for each god, Poseidon inheriting the territory of the island of Atlantis. This island is larger than ancient Libya and Asia Minor put together, which was later named Atlantis. The Egyptians described Atlantis as an island located approximately 700 kilometers, consisting of mountains in the northern region and along the coast. There are longitudinal grasslands in the south, stretching about 600 kilometers, in the center of about 400 square km. The native Atlantean woman named Cleito, daughter of Evenor and Leucippe, lives here. There is a similarity with the site in Java, namely the Cheeto site. Poseidon fell in love with her, married the young girl and gave birth to 5 pairs of twin boys. Poseidon divided the island into 10 regions, each of which was given to 10 children. The eldest son, Atlas, became king of the island and the surrounding oceans and was later called the Atlantic Ocean in honor of Atlas. Let us see. Poseidon divides the island into 10 regions, each of which is given to 10 children, which is found in the Sanskrit Mahabharata epic, which is also related to Rshi Markandeya. Rshi Markandeya, referring to the Sanskrit Mahabharata epic consisting of 100,000 slokas over 2,000 years old, is related to the name Markandeya. Mahabharata 2.8-2.70, listed about the name Markandeya, continuous with the word Tirtha, as follows. Markandeya, who was blessed by Vishnu, did many tapasya at Tirtha. This was where Agnya rested, having divided Jambudvipa among his 9 sons. From the above quotation, it can be understood that the name Markandeya has been around for thousands of years and is written in the book Mahabharata. This name will be used by Rshi in the next era. Then there is the word Tirtha, written. This word is a word that has existed for a long time in the archipelago. The word Tirtha comes from the word stati, rtha. Stati equals sustainable, nurturing, rtha equals truth, righteous life. The word rtha is often used for the word Kirtha. Religion in Bali was originally called Religion of Tirtha, later became Hindu Bali, this new name in paste, in 1950. The quote, Mahabharata. The next word is Jambudvipa. Salagrama, where Agnya rested in old age after dividing Jambudvipa among his 9 sons. Jambudvipa. This name and location is in the Indonesian archipelago at the foot of Mount Barangrang, as listed in the area Jambudvipa, as the valley supporting Mount Sunda Purba, or sometimes called Mount Agung Batara Guru. The name Atlantis is also derived from its name, which means Island of Atlas. Poseidon carved the mountain where his beloved lived into a palace and closed it with 3 round trenches whose width increased, varied, and were separated by a large ring of earth. The Atlanteans built a bridge to the north from the mountains, creating a route to the island. They dug a large canal into the sea, and beside the bridge, made a cave into a ring of rock so that ships could pass into the city around the mountains. They made a pier out of the stone wall of the ditch. Every entrance to the city was guarded by gates and towers, and walls surrounded each cluster of cities. The walls were erected of red, white and black stone originating from the trench, and covered with brass, tin and bronze or brass orichalcum. According to Critias, 9,000 years before his birth, war broke out between the people who were outside the Pillars of Hercules and the people who lived inside the pillars. The Atlanteans conquered Libya as far as Egypt and continental Europe as far as Tyrrhenia, and made its inhabitants slaves. The Athenians led an alliance against the Atlantean Empire, and when the alliance was crushed, Athena fought against the Atlantean Empire itself, liberating occupied territory. Until finally, the earthquake and flood disaster in Atlantis, and in just one day and one night, the island of Atlantis sank and disappeared. The philosopher Crantor, a pupil of Plato's pupil Xenocrates, tried to find evidence of the existence of Atlantis. Proclus reports that Crantor ventured into Egypt and found a column with the history of Atlantis written in hieroglyphs. Plato never mentioned the column. According to the Greek philosopher, Solon saw the story of Atlantis in a different source which was taken from Egypt given to his pupil. Proclus on Timaeus gives a description of the geography of Atlantis. There were 7 islands in the sea at that time, Holy Land to Persephone, and also 3 other very large ones, another to Ammon, and last of them to Poseidon, with an area of thousands of stadia. Marcellus wrote in Aethiopica that, the inhabitants of Atlantis, they preserved the historical memories of their ancestors regarding the great island Atlantis that once existed and had ruled over all the islands in the Atlantic Ocean and its ancestor Poseidon. Other ancient historians and philosophers who believed in Atlantis were Strabo and Posidonius.